Hey everybody, good evening. This is the first edition of our official SLE podcast. Many people wished for a podcast in the past, and we've decided to create one starting now for Split 6. I'm not working on it myself alone. For those who don't know me or don't recognize my voice, I'm Linus. I'm one of the two owners of the league. And I'm working together with other staff members who are responsible for information gathering and other stuff in the background. There's a good chance that I will have in future episodes of the podcast different people coming in, interviews, or maybe a co-host. But for now, I will do it just by myself. So, the first thing on our schedule for today is that we take a look at our rule changes. As for every split so far, we have took the off split, the off season, to overhaul our rule book, look at the things that didn't go so well, and look at the things that we wanted to improve. We also got a lot of feedback from the community, from you guys, and try to work out a better rule book, a better split in general than compared to split 5, which was already really successful. So the first big change is our rule 1.1.3.3. For those who don't know, it's a rule that looks at how high can a player climb. Previously, our ruling was that no player is allowed to climb above 100 LP in Diamond. So everyone in Master and above was cut out. We also had a second rule that made exceptions for this, and that was called the Veterancy rule. The Veterancy rule basically stated if you've played 10 or more games in the last 2 SLE splits, then you're considered a veteran and you're allowed to climb higher. We didn't have an exact ELO limit, but it was mostly around 50 LP in Masters. Of course, many thought that's pretty unfair because why would someone, only because they are known in the SLE or only because they are not new, be able to have a higher ELO peak than, for example, a player that's finding this league now and wants to play with his friends. So that's why we changed this rule. So what is the new ruling? Basically, we've completely removed the veterancy status. We renamed it to legacy player. Legacy player now is someone who has played 10 or more games in the last SLE split, so this time split 5. For example, I've played, I think, like 60 games in the SLE, but last split I only played 2, so I'm not a legacy player. Veteran now only means someone who has already played 1 or more games. This is only important for the Rookie of the Split award. Basically, everyone who has played 1 or more games ever in the SLE is not eligible to be Rookie of the Split. And that includes me, for example. The Legacy rule now also doesn't have anything to do with the ELO barrier that we have. It only changes the amount of games that you need to play before the split, because basically if we know someone, if someone is a legacy player, they don't need to make such an effort to play a certain amount of games, so we can define the ELO of that player. Now our hard cap is not Diamond 1 100 LP anymore, it's Master 100 LP. So any player in the whole league can climb up to Master 100 LP before registering. Now that the registration is closed, everyone that is already registered to the SLE can climb as high as they want. We will not take any measurements during this split, but of course if you climb too high, you might be not eligible for future splits. And that leads us to our second rule that we changed of the important rule changes, which is 1.1.5.1. We now require a certain amount of ranked games played, basically. We didn't really have that last time. We had it in our rulebook at first for Split 5, but we kind of scrapped it and went with just accepting the players that are eligible from ELO. Now we have this. Basically, there are 2 required ranked game numbers. The first one is you need to have 50 games played in 2024. Of course, most of you know that. You have played those games. This, of course, excludes legacy players, people who have played 10 plus games in the last split. Those only have to be placed in Solo queue, only those 5 games, basically. And the other amount is also for non-legacy players, is that you need to be ranked in 2023, so last ranked season, in both splits. So split 1 and split 2, you need to have a clear rank. If you don't have that, you need to have 100 games played over the course of last year and this year. So the 50 games are included in those 100 games, but you just need a certain amount of games played. Of course, the reason for that is that we want to make sure that we know how good, in quotations, a player is. Of course, we are aware that there are a lot of players who are peaked higher than they should have if you just count how good they are. And of course, there are players who have not played that much ranked or never climbed as high as they would be able to if they would really try hard in solo queue. That's always something to factor in. And the third rule that's connected to this is our ELO system. Basically, we wanted to stop the creation of super teams. Last split, we had a lot of those teams where the best players of the league, many master players, came together in those particular teams, and they kind of dominated the league. And we wanted to make it a bit more even, make it a bit more interesting, and that's why we brought in our 2600 ELO barrier. We have published our ELO calculator. Basically, every rank in League has an ELO design to it. For example, Diamond Fear 0 LP would be 2400 ELO, Master 0 LP would be 2800 ELO, and you basically put it into a calculator. You take the 5 players that are playing. Every roster that you're registering for a game will be checked if they are within those 2600 ELO, and you insert those 5 players, and in the end it will basically tell you, okay, this is the ELO of your team, and that needs to be 2600 or lower. The next rule that we changed is 3.1.2.3. It's basically a format rule which added super weekends. Super weekends, of course, we have the first one right now, which is Saturday and Sunday. Super weekends basically were brought in because we wanted to keep the format of last split. Last split we had 9 weeks of regular season and then playoffs. And we kind of didn't really want to shorten the regular split. It was already in last split the case that it was really, really close between the teams. And if you take games away in Swiss, then it will get even closer and even less clear who are the teams that are better and who are the teams that are worse. And that's why we didn't want to reduce the amount of games in the regular season. That being said, we also wanted to shorten the duration of the split, because last split took like 3.5 months, the one before that took 4 months, the one before that took 5 months, and we want to shorten it a bit so the split is more compact. And that's why we decided to have those super weekends, 3 in total, 2 in the regular season, that just make sure that 2 of those Swiss rounds are played within 1 week, just to cut the time a bit. And yeah, the first one is the one that we are heading to. Of course, we know that scheduling might be a bit hard in the super weekends, but that's what substitutes are for. Basically, you can have up to 10 people on your roster, and yeah, teams with a more broad roster, of course, have an advantage here over a team that only has the main roster on their team. Of course, this podcast is centered around all the teams coming to Split 6. We have a lot of returning teams. We have teams that return in a different way than before, with a lot of roster changes. And of course, we have completely new teams as always. We will take a look at every of the 24 teams, having the highlight on 4 of the returning teams. Gucci Yin, Becky Vress SNC, Snackpack SNC, and Vitagen Diamond. Those teams will have a deeper look. We also did interviews with them. The other teams will be more quickly, just because the time is not enough to cover every team in detail. We will, of course, take a look at the other teams as well in the future, in future podcasts, but for now, that's our main focus. Starting with our SLE Split 5 champion, Gucci Yin. Gucci Yin is our reigning champion. They have changed most of their roster, but not everything. They've kept their jungler, JL, who came in during the season for Obsidian. Basically, Obsidian was the main jungler, but in playoffs he had a problem with the schedule, and JL came in and he played a huge role in the finals win against Becky Vress, where he stole a crucial Baron in the 4th game when Gucci Yin was with their backs against the wall. The other player of that team that is returning as well is Kim Jensen. Kim Jensen was the mid lane on that team, played the whole split, played a really, really good split, his best so far in my opinion, and they are the center of the team basically. The other three main roster players that are not returning are Sench, Wiggies, and Sheffer. All of them peaked too high in solo queue, went above the Master 100 LP, and therefore not eligible anymore, cannot come back to defend their title. That's kind of what I meant with super teams before, those teams where those players like Sench, like Wiggies, like Sheffer that are incredibly good are clustered in one team. And yeah, sadly they cannot come back, but they have good replacements. Their support is a complete new player. It's Rix. Rix is a champion of the Valorant League, a different community league, and is their new support, replacing Wiggies there. He's also a Grandmaster in Overwatch, or he was when the game was still relevant. And yeah, he's paired up in the bot lane with Sanix. Sanix is one of the most well-known figures in the SLE. He was part of the admin team at one point. He was incredibly controversial back in the day. And yeah, he's now joining Gucci Yin. He's actually the team captain of Gucci Yin. Last split, of course, he was on Blazing Pandas, reached third on that team. And yeah, now is his run for the title, basically. And on top lane is Ruzu. Ruzu was part of the sister team of Gucci Yin, which was Gucci Yang. Gucci Yang, of course, a bit below the expectations, but Ruzu, an incredibly good player who now wants to come in and take the spot of Sench and basically bring Gucci Yin to their second title, to the title defense. And they are pretty sure they can repeat that run. In the interview, they said that they are confident that they are the best team and that they will defend the title and be the second team to do so, after Gucci Gaming, of course, who won in Split 2 and in Split 3. Of course, Gucci always has a rivalry. They had some rivalries in the past, for example, with Black Manta. But the main rivalry, of course, basically the classical of the SLE is Vitagen against Gucci. And this time, that means that we have two Gucci teams, Gucci and of course Gucci Yang, against the two Vitagen teams of Vitagen Diamond and Vitagen Pearl, and that's basically the main rivalry for this team. They will compete for the best spots, and it will be interesting to see how the games go, because they are always exciting. In general, the team is really excited to play in this split. Of course, the teams are a bit weaker than last split, or at least the top teams are a bit weaker. But yeah, they still really, really want to prove how good they are this split. Going over to the next team is Primordials. Primordials, of course, being one of the most well-known teams in the SLE. If you don't count Gucci Yin and Gucci Yang to Gucci Gaming, or Vitagen Diamond and Vitagen Pearl to Vitagen, then Primordials is the most seasoned team in the SLE. They basically have the same roster since Split 3. They played Split 3, they played Split 4, 5, and now 6, and that all with the same roster. They had some roster changes, but the 5 players played every single game. They never needed even one game with a substitute. And they're coming off a rather weak split. Last split, they finished last in the league, not winning a single game. They got 2 wins in quotations, because their opponent was disqualified, but in the end they couldn't win a single game, and that's really disappointing. But the main reason for that were role swaps. Like, they had nearly everyone on a new role, trying out new things, and that didn't really work out. Now they are back in mostly the roster or the role assignment that won them Division 2 in Split 3, and that got them to playoffs in Split 4. And they're starting off with a game against the Black Flag Sailors, who they already played 2 weeks ago in the Pirate Bay Invitational, basically the own tournament of Black Flag Sailors. Back then they got 4th from 4 teams and got first beaten by Black Flag Sailors 2-0, and then they got eliminated by Black Lotus Esports 2-1. And now they are back and can take revenge on the Sailors. The next team on our list is Gucci Yang. Gucci Yang, of course, being the other Gucci Gaming team. Last split, they finished in the top 8. They got knocked out in quarterfinals by Blazing Pandas, and they are now back. The only player that was kept from the last squad is Rebreathe, the mid laner, now being renamed. And everyone else is basically coming in new to this team. And I want to put the focus on the top side, basically top lane and jungle. On top lane they have Los Moderato. Los Moderato is a SLE regular season champion. He won that title with Rebel Links last split. Rebel Links of course not playing this split. And he swapped over to Gucci Yang after playing also for Gucci Gaming in the Manta Cup. And maybe even a bit more interesting is Paka. Paka was a substitute on Gucci Yin. He has an SLE title. And he was their top lane substitute. And he is now coming into Gucci Yang as the jungler. Which is really, really interesting because I'm really excited to see if Paka can really dominate the jungle, if he can be such a great player as he is in top lane, or if this will be the weak point of this roster. The next team on our list is Slim Odds. Slim Odds is also one of the teams that reached playoffs last split, but only as the 16th team. So basically the last team to qualify for playoffs. And in those playoffs, they of course played against the number 1 seed of Rebel Links, got eliminated 3-0, and the split was done for them. Now they are back with nearly the same roster. The only new addition is Willy Sang, who is the new jungler of that team. Overall, the team has a pretty high elo, so they should, if you only look at the elo, be one of the top 8 to top 10 teams. And I'm really excited to see how they can go from 16th, if they go up, or if they go down, and maybe not even make playoffs. So the next team that we look at is actually one of the 2 Vitagen teams, Vitagen Diamond. Jessaya, the support of the last Vitagen team, wanted to create a new team, and he decided he wants to do that under the Vitagen flag. So he sat together with Dutch, the team owner, and was like, hey, can we create 2 teams maybe for the next split? And that's why we have Vitagen Diamond and Vitagen Pearl. What's really different between Vitagen Diamond and Vitagen Pearl is the side they play for. Vitagen Pearl, as before the Vitagen team, basically mainly plays for top side, while Vitagen Diamond plays for the bot side. In general, their top laner Benjamin is perceived as a weak top laner by many, but according to Vitagen Diamond, he's actually a really good team fighter and a really good weak sider that they brought in to complete the team. In general, their expectation is that they can be one of the best team, if not the best team. They are only satisfied if they win the title, and in general, they just want to see how far they can go with their roster. And one really important player on that roster is Shipex. Shipex has played in the SLE before. In Split 2, he also played in the play-ins of Split 3. But then he took a break from League, and now he's getting back onto the ADC position, basically learning the game again. Of course, you don't unlearn everything, but to get back into the groove, you need to play some games, play some competitive, and that's what he's trying to do. And I'm really confident that he can be the best ADC in the current SLE split, and maybe he can work his way to the best ADC of all SLE history. One interesting side note is that the top laner Benjamin and the ADC Shipex, they are actually brothers, and this can lead to 2 things in my opinion. The first one is that the communication is really good between the team. They can work on problems really easily. They have a deep trust and a good atmosphere in general. Or they have a lot of unnecessary fights. A lot of brothers fight a lot and argue about many things just because they've done that all their life. So I'm really interested to see how this dynamic changes the way that Vitagen Diamond plays and is perceived in the league. The next team that we will take a look at is Ragnarok. Ragnarok is coming back with exactly the same roster as last split. Last split they had actually a really good regular season. They finished 7th, but they also had the hardest schedule. Like in Swiss, of course, you always get matched with teams with a similar score. And because you don't play every single team in Swiss, only 9 different teams, the strength of schedule is different for every team. And Ragnarok had the hardest schedule of all the teams in the whole league. Many people had Ragnarok as one of the weakest teams before Split 5. In my own power ranking, I had them on 19 of 22. and many people put them even lower than that. That being said, they performed really well. They defeated or drew against really good teams. In the end, they, till the last day, were a team that could make top 3. And the question now is that overperformance or not? Because right a week after that, in playoffs, they got eliminated 3-0 by the Greasy Goblins, who were the lower seed. They were supposed to beat the Greasy Goblins, supposed to be better, but still they get completely destroyed by them. And now is the question, how good will they perform this split? Was the performance last split an overperformance and now they will be a bottom team, or are they actually a contender for the SLE? Another team that's coming back from a rather good run in regular season and an elimination in playoffs is Solaris Ares. Back in last split, they didn't really enter the league. A different team did, called Quantify. After 3 weeks of regular season play, the team basically disbanded and changed name, changed their org, changed the logo, and brought 5 new players in. And that team is Solaris Ares. They basically took the spot of Quantify. And while the team was severely underperforming under Quantify, being one of the bottom teams of the league, Solaris Ares started to roll up. They started to get better and better, and in the end had a pretty good finish in the regular season. Then in the playoffs, they faced off against Blazing Pandas, a team that should come third in the end. In that series, they took Blazing Pandas to 5 games, nearly won the whole series, and eliminated one of the favorites to win the SLE split. Now they are back in the league and are trying to get as far as they can. Their team in general looks really, really strong, but they also have the double pressure of also playing in the CWL. This can of course lead to the team having a lot more practice and in the end performing better than other teams, but it can also lead to a lot of stress, which then can lead to weaker performances. And their season basically starts with Black Lotus. Black Lotus is another team that comes from last split, and they had quite some roster changes. The main addition is Shizu. Shizu is the jungler, and he's coming over from Make in the Great SNC, who were eliminated last time before playoffs, and now he wants to reach playoffs with Black Lotus. Another fact is that Black Lotus joined Sanctuary. For those who don't know, Sanctuary is a German community founded by Snackpack and Black Manta, and Black Lotus Esports decided to join that org, that community, after split 5 of the SLE. And speaking about Snackpack, Snackpack is one of the most well-known teams in the SLE. They joined in split 4, immediately won the regular season, only to be eliminated in playoffs, losing to Kakapo Adax, an Italian squad, and later to CCG Muffins. Last split they came in as one of the favorites again, but in the end they finished 15th in regular season, a big disappointment, and they got immediately eliminated in the round of 16 in playoffs by Vitagen. When being asked why this poor performance happened, they basically said that they had a lot of injuries or other reasons why certain players on their team couldn't play. Evo was on holidays for a few weeks and was out, their star jungler basically, and the supports were changing constantly. Someone who came in the end was Pryocon, who is now the main support. He basically earned a spot in the team after being so reliable as a substitute. Something that needs to be added is that many games of the ones that Snackpack lost were really close games that stretched over 45-50 minutes. And of course in the end they lost, and they deservedly lost, but if a few games of them went differently, we would talk about Snackpack in a completely different way probably now. The core of the team always stayed the same. Under the name Kida Robben, the team was founded in a German university 5 years ago by Evo, Sushi Killer, and Zybotop, who are still on the team, still the top side of the team. And as they say, it's a big advantage if you know someone that well, if you played together for thousands of games, because then you already know how do we figure out how to fix problems and how do we need to improve. And that's their goal. They want to prove that they can bounce back. They want to show a good and consistent regular season and then maybe have a deep playoff run. Their main rival was Black Manta. Black Manta is gone now, and they are kind of looking for a new main rival. In the SLE, of course, they played a few teams numerous times. Vitagen, for example, they played against Gucci, but there's not that one team that they face off and that they always have banger games with. So yeah, they kind of need to find their new rival this time. In general, the team is not satisfied with Season 14. They always need a bit more time to adapt, and you can see that in their form. They perform not as well as they hoped in Prime League, and also in different tournaments. They are just not up to the expectations. Another returning team is Silver Phoenix. Silver Phoenix was seen as an underdog, a dark horse by many in the last split. Many had high expectations, and when they started the split with a draw against Gucci, where they looked like the better team, many thought, okay, this will be one of the top 8, top 6 teams. But all came different. They lost a lot of games, and in the end they finished 17th, being eliminated before even going to playoffs. And that was a huge disappointment. And questions arose, why was that the case? And they basically kicked out their jungler and brought in a new player, Waynam. Waynam is a player that they already used in the Manta Cup a few weeks ago, where he came in and brought the team to the quarterfinals, to the top 8 spot. And now in general, the squad has high expectations. They want to show that they are indeed a top 8 team, top 6 team, and are looking to prove that against Assassins and Greed, S&C, a team that hosts many players that previously defeated Silver Phoenix in the SLE or different tournaments. Another team that's coming back is Vitagen Pearl. Vitagen Pearl, of course, is the successor to Vitagen, and they have kept Ant, who was previously Rookie of the Split, on top lane, and Dutch, who previously was MVP in the SLE, two of the most known players of the SLE. In addition to that, they added 3 veterans. On the mid lane, they added Trolulu, a player who is actually really good. He's known under the name Shade on Discord, and he played 2 games for Blazing Panda last split. And the bot lane are 2 really interesting veterans in the SLE. On one side we have LMR, a player who in Split 3 reached the bronze medal with Reef Esports, and Kolaski, who played 4 splits in a row, split 1 to 4 on the team Runtime. Then he took a break last split, and now he's back as one of the most known players of the SLE. It's really interesting to see this team with so much experience in the SLE coming back and trying to get another title for Vitagen. The last returning team, which we also will take a deeper look at, is Wacky Brass SNC. Wacky Brass got to finals last split. They finished 8 in 8 regular season, and then they had their kind of miracle run, beating Revelings, the regular season champion, and also eliminating Vitagen and Blazing Pandas, only to narrowly miss out on the title against Gucci in the finals. And they actually were able to keep the whole roster together. Both Gucci and also Vitagen had to get new players in because some players just weren't eligible anymore. But Wacky Brass actually stayed exactly the same. And the expectation towards the split is really focused around this fact. As Uzujin, the mid laner, said, they think they are the clear favorites to win the SLE this time. Even though they are performing a bit worse right now, as he said, they think it's still more than enough to win the SLE and to be the best team of the split. He was actually asked in an interview if he sees any team in the SLE as rivals, but he said, quote, "A team would need to be on our level for that." So, a big ego, and maybe it's justified, we'll see. But that also means that there's room for a lot of backlash in case they don't perform up to standard. For now, they want to start with the regular season, get in their groove, and then for playoffs they want to be ready to just crush everyone and walk to the title. Because in the end, for them, it's not about the regular season. It's mostly about coming top 16 and then going to finals, winning the title. One thing that Uzujin wants to stop from happening is the finals hangover. Something that is known in many sports, is the finals hangover. For example, in the Super Bowl, a lot of teams that go to Super Bowl have really bad seasons afterwards. And I actually looked into the last 2 splits or 3 splits in the SLE to see how well the top 2 teams, the teams that got to finals, performed in the split after that, to see if there's really a finals hangover in the SLE. And I'm starting with the teams that got to finals in split 3. First we have Gucci Gaming. Gucci Gaming completely dominated split 3, then had some roster changes for split 4, and in the regular season they finished 5th of 10 teams, so it averaged, but a bit more in the upper half. But then they got eliminated by White Tigers, who were the second team from Division 2. So they got 7th at the end of 10 teams in playoffs, so rather disappointing finish. The second team from Split 3 that reached finals was Black Manta. Black Manta had a lot of expectations for Split 4, but they actually didn't even make Division 1. They got dropped down to Division 2 in the play-ins. Then they won Division 2, but got eliminated in the playoffs by CCG Muffins, coming 6th total. So both teams that got to finals in Split 3 didn't make top 5 in Split 4. So you can actually say there's a bit of a finals hangover. Let's see how it is for the 2 finalists of that split. Dolly 5 completely dissolved. You have different players on that team that later tried to win it again. You had, for example, Jonathan Isaac on Blazing Pandas. He got 3rd. You had Jasea, who played then for Vitagen, who got 4th. In the end, not really that much of an improvement, but also not the biggest drop-off. And the other team is Vitagen. Vitagen won Split 4, and then in Split 5 they got 3rd in regular season, and they got 4th in playoffs. You can say that it's not the biggest drop-off, it's not the biggest finals hangover, but it's also less than they wanted. They, of course, wanted to play for the title, both in regular season and in playoffs, and both times they came short. So I think you can say there's a bit of a finals hangover, as long as there's not a team that goes to finals back-to-back. The only team that has done that is Gucci Gaming in Split 2 and 3. But yeah, ever since the start of Split 3, we had a finals hangover kinda in the SLE. When asking Vecchi Rest how they feel in this season, they said that this season is ours. It sucks, and they are not happy with how the state of the league is. And that's something that I'm really excited of. Even though they hate this season, they don't like the changes, how well can they adapt? Because, in my opinion, a lot of your performance comes from your attitude towards the game. And, of course, that can be an issue if you don't really like playing in the game right now. Lastly, they were asked about their thought of Split 6. And Uzujin has voiced his disappointment about the ELO changes. Of course, they are one of the biggest beneficiaries of this new system. They are nearly at the 2600 ELO border. They could keep the whole roster. Most opponents could not. But he loves to play against stronger teams, against teams that are really a challenge. And he doesn't really see any team in the SLE as a big challenge right now. So that's why he's a bit disappointed. Going over to the new teams in the SLE. The first team is Dangerous Game, one of the biggest favorites for many. Dangerous Game is basically the new NLAN esports. For those who don't know, NLAN esports is one of the teams of last split that were performing quite well in regular season. They got 5th in regular season, but then in playoffs they got eliminated 3-2 by Interstellar Aquila. So a lot of disappointment in the knockout stage. And now they're back. They kept their jungler, I Play You Listen, and their ADC Terraforming swapped to mid lane, renamed to Oppression, and they brought in a few new players. And of course, there are 2 big names. One of them is Lurks. Lurks is one of the most well-known players of the SLE, a support who has reached 3rd and 2nd so far in the SLE. Oh no, I'm not correct. Who reached 4th and 3rd in the SLE so far. So now he tries to get 2nd or 1st. And the second addition is their top laner Shy City. Shy City is not known that much in the SLE so far, but I've actually spectated a few games of him over the client because I was interested. I watched some of the replays, and I think he looks really dominant on top lane. He might be the best top laner this split. And he can prove that in game 1 because he's going up against Ant, he's going up against Vintage and Pearl, against one of the best top laners, if not the best top laners of the past splits. So I'm really excited to see how that matchup will go. On the other end of many people's power rankings is Dark Crimson Flame, one of the weaker teams. Dark Crimson Flame was founded by Samuel. Samuel is a more well-known person of the SLE past. He was part of the staff team at one point, played in different teams. And yeah, now he brings his own team, Dark Crimson Flame, to the whole mix. And the team has the second lowest elo behind Ragnarok, who have already proven themselves. This is basically the team with the lowest elo that has not yet proven themselves in the SLE. And a lot of people don't really have high expectations for this team, me included. I think they're a big underdog, but they can also use it as an advantage because people might underestimate them in their matches. The next team are the Grubbers. Awesome name. For many, the Grubbers are the new meme team. Last time it was mainly Greasy Goblins, the CEO of Disappointments, whatever. And now we have the Grubbers. And many already love the team just for their name, just for their logo. And I also think it's pretty cool. And especially IPR, the mid laner, the AD carry of the team. He looks really good. And I think the team is a middle of the pack team. I'm really excited to see how they will perform in the end in this league. The next team on our list is Black Flag Sailors SNC. It's basically the new team of Linus, Denza, and Quishy. Of course, 3 players that are pretty known in the SLE. All of them have won Division 2. All of them have been to the SLE finals, gotten a silver medal for them under Black Manta. And now they have a new team, the Black Flag Sailors, also part of Sanctuary. And they are joined together by Noah Tempest, who is the regular season winner. He won the Division 1 in Split 4 with Snack Pack, and who's now coming in as the jungler for this team. And the other addition is Moppo, the player of a team called Ubitinesti that many in the German bubble might know. And their first task in the SLE is Primordials. Primordials is a team that they have previously beaten in the Pirate Bay Invitation in their own tournament just 2 weeks prior. So kind of revenge for Primordials here, or just a match to prove for Black Flag Sailors that they belong above Primordials, which of course in SLE standards is not the most. So yeah, let's see how well this team will perform in the end. Then we have Sorby Glacial. Sorby Glacial is another Danish team, all Danish team, together with Primordials. They are part of the Sorby organization, and yeah, basically it's one of the few teams. It's the first one to enter the SLE. Let's see if they maybe join with more teams in the future. But yeah, for me the team is a bit of a blank page. Like I have not really seen anything from them yet. The roster looks okayish, but not really too good. The only player that kind of stands out is Gryzaren, who is the jungler of that team. So yeah, I'm really excited to see the first games this weekend to see where they are to be ranked in the SLE. Another team that's a bit of a blank page for me are the Infernal Wolves B. Infernal Wolves B is a team from the Infernal Wolves organization. They have 3 teams actually, A, B, and C. But they are the only team that joins the SLE. The team owner Skills actually was part of Vitigen last split, but he never stepped off the bench. He was only substitute who didn't play a single game. But now he is coming in with his team, and maybe he will find time to play this time around. Similar to Sorby Glacial, the roster is a bit of a blank page for me. The only player that I really figured out could be a difference maker is Nadish, the mid laner, or Nadesh. And I think he has a really stable laning phase. He looks like someone they can build up on. And he has a good champion pool with a lot of different picks, a good variety. So maybe that's the player that they can use to defeat teams like Gucci the team that they play in week 1. Then we have Assassins and Greed SNC. Assassins and Greed SNC is a new team that comes from the Sanctuary community, and they consist of a lot of people that are already known in the community. For example, you have their mid laner Trouble Bubble. He was previously part of the Powder Monkeys SLC, who had a rather weak split last split. But a lot of people still acknowledge the skill that Trouble Bubble had. Like, he overperformed and was one of the top 5, top 6 mid laners in that split in the regular season, even though his team was one of the bottom teams and they were consistently losing games. The bot lane consists of Delph and I Want Leash, two people that have played a major role in Split 4 and also are part of the SLE history. And then you have the jungler Maybe, who, same as the players from Black Flag Sailors, has played on Black Manta and has won the jungle MVP of Split 3. And he has won the silver medal in Split 3. He got to finals and he won Division 2 in Split 4. So also one of the more decorated junglers in the whole league. And yeah, they are joined by Shorty 23, a top laner that is also known to some people from the Manta Cup sphere, where he has dominated the top lane in many, many games. The roster in general looks really strong, and you can see that because they've won the Pirate Bay Invitational just 2 weeks prior, and they are currently undefeated in the Prime League. They have never lost a single game, not a match, a single game ever since they are founded. That was not a scrim. Like, they lost scrims, of course, but the league games and the cup games, they are undefeated there. A different team that also has a lot of veterans in them is Eternal Blizzard. Eternal Blizzard, of course, not a completely new team. They have played in Split 3. Back then, they have finished 4th. They got eliminated by Black Manta. And then they dissolved. The players went their own ways. But now they are back. You have Shiki and Loka on bot lane, who were bot lane back then as well. And you have just a team full of a lot of veterans and a lot of expectation, of course, in that. Another team with high expectations that also have an XEB player on their roster is Shaka Bantu. Shaka Bantu is the team of Michi Darko, Memnon, who was part of Eternal Blizzard and who was also part of Blazing Panda's last split. He has basically founded his own team, Shaka Bantu, and has brought some friends into the league. One of them being Surge, who is basically the jungler. He also has some really quite interesting picks in the jungle, but he has made a big impact in the games that I saw of him in solo queue and flex queue. So yeah, I'm really excited to see whether or not this team will perform up to the standard of Michi Darko, or if it's rather just a middle of the pack team that had a lot of expectations before the split and then later just revealed that they are just one of the bunch. Another new team is Peach Fish Wolf. The team consists of many European players from Poland, Bosnia, Scotland, but they are actually still a Swedish academy team. Like, there's the conspiracy that they're actually not a Swedish academy team, but you can trust me on that. They are from Sweden. They are an academy team of an ARL team there, and yeah, they have a really, really strong bot side. Kind of the carry is their support, Kamar on my own. He is really interesting, and I've played against him numerous times against different teams. For example, he was part of a team called Paragon, and I always had the expectation that he can perform on a really good level. DVN Infinity, or Devillion Infinity, is another one of those new teams in the SLE. They have one of the best players, if not the best player of the league, Zyrus. He is at 96 RP Masters, and he has the potential to be the best mid laner this split. The team is kind of focused around him. He pulls the average up by a lot. The rest of the team is rather average, so I'm really interested to see if Cyrus can carry his team to a really deep run in the playoffs or to a really high finish in the regular season. And yeah, basically Devillion Infinity, one of the dark horses in my opinion. And the last team is Linkstream. Many confuse Linkstream with Revel Links and think it's the same team. It's not the same team. It's a new team, but from the same community, as the Estonian fan base is not that big, they don't have that much players, so they are all deeply connected. And while Revelings is not able to play in the SLE anymore, they've decided to send a different team, Linkstream, which was formerly known by Emerald Punishers. They've also played in the Manta Cup and gone to quarterfinals there. But yeah. One more thing to add is that Che, the multimillionaire owner of Rebel Links, is also the owner of Linkstream. He's currently on a business trip to China. He has to make some contracts or something like that. I'm not that deep into all the Che iceberg, but yeah, the money should start flowing again soon. Like he promised to invest like $100,000 into the team. Or into the new team that Estonia will field in this split. So I'm really interested to see how that will turn out in the end. Now that we are done with all the teams, I actually want to take a look at the biggest transfers of players. Of course, there are always players who leave their team, who join a new team. There are always teams that are formed for one split in the SLE, for example, Blazing Panda's last split, and the known players then go on and join new teams or form their own new teams. For example, Michi Darko, as I said before, has formed Chaka Bantu. Sanix of Blazing Pandas has joined Gucciin. And I've just collected the more notable transfers, or to be more precise, Josiah helped me out with that. He collected those, and I will present them to you now. The first one is Loco, Loco64. For those who don't know, Loco64 is a two-time SLE champion. He has won the Split 2 with Gucci Gaming and the Split 4 with Vitagen. He's actually the only player in the SLE who has won the title on two different teams. And he has transferred, as he was on Vitagen last split as a substitute, and is now joining Eternal Blizzard as the new support. Two different players that are basically joining Eternal Blizzard are God of Hex and Barack Ogama. Both of them were one game away from securing top 4 last split. They nearly eliminated Vitagen. But yeah, they fell short in the end. And since Crazy Goblins dissolved, they decided to go over to Eternal Blizzard. And yeah, God of Hex role swapped to top lane. Barack Ogama is still the mid lane of that team. And they are joining Loco64, who eliminated them, or his team eliminated them last split. Then we have two players who are leaving Blazing Pandas, because Blazing Pandas, of course, not playing again. One of them is Sanix. Sanix is one of the most well-known or most decorated ADCs of the SLE history. He actually played on jungle on Red Team 1 and won the regular season, the Division 1. Back in Split 1. And yeah, now he's on ADC. He has not won a title yet on ADC, but he's coming to Gucciin, the defending title champion. And he tries to win it there. And I'm really excited to see how that fits, because Sanix is a really good player, and Gucciin and Gucci in general has a history of fielding rosters that are extremely competitive. And the second player of Blazing Pandas is Jonathan Isaac. Jonathan Isaac leaving Blazing Pandas and going over to Vitagen Diamond. And I think that's really a good fit. Jonathan Isaac has reached third on Blazing Pandas last split, and he has reached second on Dolly 5 in Split 4. So someone who's really, who knows success in the SLE. And now he's on Vitagen Diamond. He's joining Josiah again. He played with Josiah already in Split 4 under Dolly 5. And yeah, I also think that's a really, really good fit. We have to wait how well that turns out. But for now, I think that's a good addition. Player that I have touched on before is Trouble Bubble, who left Powder Monkeys SNC, or rather the team dissolved, and who has now joined Assassin's Creed SNC. Sanctuary has quite a lot mid laners that are actually pretty good. You have Denzo, of course, then you have Sushi Killer, and you have Trouble Bubble, and Trouble Bubble might even be the best one of those. And yeah, it's really interesting to see what he can do on a good team, instead of a team that plays with a silver top laner who has like an average 8 deaths per laning phase. So yeah, I think Assassin's Creed might be a really big dark horse, and especially because Trouble Bubble just has a huge champion pool, and because it can adapt to a lot of situations pretty well. Another Sanctuary change is Linus, Adenza, and also Quishy, who are joining Black Flag Sailors from Black Manta. Of course, Linus wasn't part of Black Manta last bit, he was part of Vitagen. But they are all coming back together to a new team. And I think that's really interesting because they have won the Division 2 in Split 4, they've went to finals in Split 3, but they haven't really shown that much in the last split and the last half of a year. So now they have a new chance to prove themselves, to show that they actually belong on the list of the top players on their role in the SLE history. So yeah, that's a change to keep an eye on. Another change involving Vitagen is LMR. LMR was part of Bears and Bogare in Split 4, where he didn't make playoffs. He got 9th in a 10 slot Division 1 and was eliminated. Then he took a split of a break, and now he's back. He's one of the most known ADCs in the history. He has a top 3 finish with Reef in Split 3. And now he's joining Vitagen Pearl together with Dutch, who he has played together before, together with Ant, Trelulu, and Kolaski. And yeah, I just think that LMR is one of the most exciting AD carries in the whole league. Then another interesting trade is Lurks leaving Blazing Pandas, or when the team got dissolved, he went a different way, and he joined Dangerous Game, formerly known as Enlan Esports. And to quote Josiah here, the all-time SLE GOAT is leaving the Blazing Pandas, where he finished 3rd place with. He'll join the new team called Dangerous Game. The big question is, will we see more interesting moments when he plays under a new team with a new AD carry? And that's a good question, because he's known to int a lot of games, he's known to run it down and still be the most famous one on the team. So yeah, really interesting fit. I think it's the first time in the SLE that he actually plays without Xenix at his side. Yeah, new ADC, new split. Then another addition for Gucci team is Lost Moderator, who left Rebel Links and joined Gucci Yang. He's actually the only player left currently from Rebel Links, the team that won the regular season last split. All the other players are out for now. Oh no, that's not true. Krella, the AD carry, is actually a substitute on Link's stream, but Lost Moderator is the only main roster player, and he's joining Gucci Yang and wants to bring this team their glory. Gucci Yin, of course, had their spot in the sunlight last split, and now he wants to make Gucci Yang a team with a lot of spotlight in the sun. And lastly, to come back to another Blazing Pandas player, the top laner Michidarko. Michidarko founding his own team Shakabantu, and one of the more interesting players in the SL history. He got 4th in the split 3, then he took a split of a break, then he got 3rd last split, and he will probably try to make it silver or gold this time around. And to finish it all off, I will give you my predictions on the title winner, the MVP, and the rookie of the split. First, the title winner. I think that Dangerous Game will actually win the SLE. I think they have a really strong roster. They have players who are experienced, and they have a top laner that I have a lot of expectations for. And I think in the end they will dominate. Of course, there are a lot of teams that have the potential to win it all, but I think this is Dangerous Game's split. And I think the rookie of the split will also be a player of their team. Shy City, I've named him before, will make a big entrance. I think he will dominate top lane, and after an ADC who won the rookie of the split last split, Krella for Rebel Links, I think now it's time that a top laner wins it again, and that will be Shy City. And the MVP, in my opinion, or with my prediction, will go to Rebreathe. Rebreathe of Gucci Yang, a player that I didn't have the biggest opinion of after Split 5, but then I saw how good he can play in the Manta Cup, and I actually think that this is his time to shine. He has a really strong roster around him, and I think in the end he will be the one where we look at and be like, yeah, that's the MVP. He should be the one getting this individual award. So yeah, and with that we come over to our last point, which is basically the roadmap and the future of this podcast. The plan is to post one podcast a month. So the next one will be at the end of March or beginning of April. And of course, we will take a different look there. We will look at the standings. We will look at how the league evolved, maybe some bigger transfers and roster changes. We will take a look at one or two games in detail that were really interesting or season defining. And we will look at players who have made a big impact at that point. Of course, we also look at potential rule changes. There is the possibility that we notice some important things in the split that we want to change. Then there will be a voting on it, and in case those happen, of course, we will touch on them in the podcast as well. In addition to that, I want to include interviews on the podcast, maybe one or two when I look at a different team or a different situation. I get people in that have something to say for that. And yeah, so you don't have to listen to my voice the whole time. We'll also take a deeper look at some more teams. Today we got 4 teams that we took a deeper look at. And yeah, I really hope that we can take a deeper look at every team at the end of the split. So yeah, this is, or this was the first SLE podcast, the first one for Split 6. Of course, it's the first one that I do, and I think you can hear it in the way that I talk. I hope I get more experience with time. Yeah, feedback is highly appreciated. There will actually be on the same post where you found this podcast, be a Google Docs document where you can give your feedback, where you can anonymously do so if you want to. You don't have to give your name. And if there are any things that you would improve or that you would wish from the podcast, if you have any topics that you want to discuss, then put them in there and I will try to improve on this because, again, I'm new to this and yeah, it's a very important project for me. I think it's really important for the SLE to have something like this as well. So yeah, that being said, I wish everyone a great Super Weekend. I hope that everyone enjoys the split, enjoys the content that we make, and yeah, see you in 1 month.